move ahead with today's whatever we are going to see, right? Yesterday we were seeing sequence data type, so that will carry forward today. So yesterday, as we saw one of the sequence data types. We saw why is it called as sequence data type, because in a sequence, as you have multiple things in a certain order, right? Similarly, if the data type that we saw yesterday was string, which has characters in a sequence or characters in a certain order. So we perform certain operations on string data type. That is, we saw how addition of strings work, how indexes work in strings, and how we can access any character of a string using index of that character. Then we saw a special case wherein if we do not have the string and we still want to see what is the last character of the string, then how to do it. There we saw the len function, which was used to get the length of the data, length of the string basically. And we saw that the indexes go from 0 to string length minus 1. Okay, I hope all of this is clear to you all. If any questions are there, please let me know. Okay, then we saw multiplication operator on strings. Then we saw slicing, right? We saw how to get substrings from strings. Like if I want to get a substring is basically a part of the string. Any small part of the string, right, is called as a substring. So if I have a string of length 5, okay, I have apple as a string, apple. And if I take the first three characters of that string, app, then app will be a substring of the string apple, because that app is also a string, and this string is present as a part of the apple string, right? It is a sub, like it's a part of this bigger string, so that's why it's a substring of the bigger string. Okay, then we saw that in Python we only have string data types, we do not have character data types. So even if you have one character in your string, like even if you declare a string with just one character like A or like C, so even that would be a string only. That Python will consider that as a string only. And even in case you keep the string empty, like if you do not put any characters, even then Python will consider it as a string only. The only criteria you have to follow is that whatever your string is, whether it's an empty string, whether you have one character or whether you have multiple characters, that should be put inside either single quotes or double quotes. No, I'm not displaying any program. We are just revising whatever we have seen yesterday. Okay. So what we require, what Python requires while we create a string is that string should have, string should start with a single quote or a double quote. Okay. Then yesterday we also saw where to use single quotes and where to use double quotes. Like we use single quotes only if there is no single quote inside the string, right? We saw that yesterday. If we maybe that I can show you guys. I'm just presenting. Yeah, so here, like this was just an example. See here in this string, wherever you have a single quote inside the string, you will put that string inside double quotes. Okay, and if you have a double quote inside a string, you will put it inside a single quote. So yeah, that is the example we saw. We saw how to declare this multi-line strings. So using three single quotes to start and three single quotes to end, or you can also use three double quotes to start and three double quotes to end. So all of these are the examples. Okay. Yeah, and we also saw why is it necessary? Why do we have to use this kind of code for this way we are using for declaring the string, right? That if the string has a single quote, then we should declare that string inside a double quotes itself. Why is it? Because whenever you are starting your string with a single quote, Python will expect that whichever is the next single quote, right, that would be the end of the string. So if your string has a single quote inside it, then your whatever string you're trying to declare, only half of the string will get declared. So in this case, in line number 5, you can see I have started the string with a single quote, I'm ending the string with a single quote, but I have one more single quote inside my string, let's, right here after t and before s. So now what Python will think is only let is the string, the rest of the line will be considered as syntax error. So that's why in this case I should have used double quotes instead of single quotes. So this is the same as line number 1, string 1, right? So inside double quotes in the same way. So yeah, that is what we saw. And yeah, we saw how to access a substring, how to get a substring from a string. We also saw how to check if a certain character is present inside a string or not. So you use in, right, here in line number 17, a in add, which is basically checking if that character a is present inside the string add or not. Okay, and we saw that a in add will return a value of a boolean value, right? It will either return a true or a false value. And then we saw the string formatters. So we saw this is the easier way of printing multiple variables on a line. So you just add a percent s, this percent s, and whatever variables are, wherever you want variables, you just put percent s if your variable is a string. And whatever are those variables, you will have to put those in the same order as is required in the string after the quotes, like this. So then we saw, like, if it's a integer, then we have to either use percent I or percent d. And if it's a float, we saw it was percent f. And if there is certain number of decimal places, right? If by default, yesterday we saw, right, by default if you put percent f, the float or the decimal number that you want to print will come as a 6 decimal places, will come to 6 decimal places. But if you just want a certain number of decimal places, like if you just want 2 decimal places after the point, then you have to declare it using percent point 2f. So all these things we have seen yesterday. There was one more thing I want to show you about strings. So basically, just a second. Yeah, so basically strings are mutable. Okay, sorry, strings are immutable. So what does that mean is, what does immutable mean is that you cannot change it once it's done. Okay, so if once you have created a string, you cannot change the contents of the string. Okay, so what immutable will usually come in case of sequence data only. So what immutable means is that once you have created a sequence data, in this case string, right, string is a sequence data. So once you have created a sequence data, you cannot change the elements of that sequence. So in case of string, what is the element of the sequence? What is it? What are we using to create the string? We are using characters, right? So once a string is created, once that sequence is created, you cannot change any of the characters that are already present in the string. So for example, str1 is equal to apple, and instead of apple I just put a d by mistake. So I have to put the character p after a, but by mistake I have written d instead of p. So now I want to change this. Okay, so I'll say str1 of, can anyone tell me what is the index? What index do I have to change?
One.
Yeah, right, 1. Okay, so I'll say index is equal to p, and then I'll print whatever is the final string. So yeah, like why we did this, because I see, whenever we are creating a variable, right, we want some value to be stored in this variable. Okay, now all of these are parts of sequences, right? Consider this as boxes. We had seen in that PPT, right? Just a second. Yeah, so all of these characters are part of a boxes, right? We saw them as boxes. So each one of these is kind of a small variable, okay? And when you like basically you can change the value of any of these boxes. That's by assigning a value to it. So when we assign something like add is equal to 3, we are putting this value 3 inside this box, right, which has a name add. Similarly, here I am putting this value p inside the box which was a part of str. So str1 is a string which has several characters, okay, and every character has a box of its own, okay. Now when I am saying str1 of 1 here in this case, so I am referring to the box, the second box of the str1 string, and I want to change that value in the box. So that's why I'm assigning the value p inside this str1 of 1. Okay. When I try to print it, it will throw an error. That it says str object does not support item assignment. Okay. So what does it mean? It means that strings are not mutable. Strings are immutable. Okay. I'll just type it here. Immutable, which means cannot be changed. Contents cannot be changed. Change. So once you have created a string, you cannot change the contents of the string. You can directly change the string. I can say str1 is equal to apple directly, and now in this case I am directly changing that string. Now this string is not equal to this string. Okay, I had created some other string here, string one, right? Even though the name is same, this adple was a different string. Okay, and I wanted to make the correction right, so I thought maybe I'll change the first character of d to p itself. But in Python, strings are immutable, which means once a string is created, you cannot change the contents of the string. So I could not make this change, this line number 6 change which I wanted to make. So now what I did was I redefined str1. So when I redefined str1 as apple, the earlier string, right, this string adple string got deleted, and a new string by the name with the value apple got assigned to str1. So, like, even though these two are assigned to the same variable, these two are not the same strings. Okay, so I'll repeat again. Initially, I created a string with a spelling mistake, ADPLE. Okay, and now I wanted to change this string. Okay, like the string was already present. I have a string. I want to change the second character of it, which I won't be able to because strings are immutable in Python. You cannot change the contents once it's created. So I now, if I want to change that spelling mistake, I want to make it right. Then I have to delete this and create a new string altogether. So when you reassign a variable, right, Python internally will delete the earlier value of that variable and assign a new value to it. Is this clear for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So I think that was all for strings. Yeah, and for strings also, one thing you can do is, so if I have str1 is equal to, you can use that plus is equal to, okay, in this case. So example, if I have, so since plus operator works on strings, you can use assignment operator plus is equal to as well in this case. So I'll say thanks, okay, and now I want to make this thanks as thanksgiving, okay. So in this case I'll just write str1 plus is equal to giving. Not sure if this is gonna work. Yeah, fine. str1. See, so what happened was I just had thanks and I added giving to it, and this now becomes thanksgiving. Okay, so I already had this string. So like if this plus is equal to operator wasn't there, I would have done str1 is equal to str1, which was thanks, plus giving. right? So this is just reducing my effort. Plus is equal to assignment operator. We had seen it earlier also. Okay. So fine. Let's just start with the second type of sequence data, which is lists. Yeah, a list. Okay, so a list is basically in Python. A list is like you would be creating a list, right? A list where if you want to go to a market, you usually create a list of items that you want to buy from the market or something. So this is similarly a list. List is nothing but a variable that will hold multiple values. Okay, so as in strings, we saw that a string holds multiple characters. A list can hold multiple values. Okay, so what value means is value can mean anything, which means a string can hold multiple integers or multiple decimal numbers, multiple floats, multiple strings, or multiple boolean values, right? So any data type. Okay, if you consider any data type, a list can hold a multiple number of that data type. Okay, so what I mean is, now if you are declaring an integer, right? We used to do this. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 15. So in this case, my variable A is only holding one value, which is 10. And my a variable B will be holding only one value, which is 15. But now if I want to declare a list, okay, then in that case, I can declare both 10 and 15 in the same list itself. So for declaring a list, you will have to use square brackets like this, like the ones we had used for string, this getting substrings out of string, right? And for accessing characters from string, same thing, this square brackets you will have to use when you want to declare a list. And whatever items or whatever values you want to you want them to be a part of the list, that you will be adding in this square brackets with a comma in between. So which means all this 10, 20 and 30, all the three values are a part of list. Okay, and this list is stored in variable L. So if you print the type of this list, it will be L. Sorry, type of this variable L, it will be list. Okay, so this is the basic thing. Like a list is basically multiple values in one single variable. Now this multiple values need not be of a single data type. Like it is not necessary that when you are declaring a list, all the elements of the list should be of one particular data type. Like in this case, I have created a list with all the three elements of integer data type, but you can create a list with any data type. Like you can mix and match any data type, that is fine. You can create one integer data type, you can put one float data type, then you can create a string data type also. Okay, and you can add boolean data type also in this. So a string, when you're creating a string, the values that you will be adding as part of the string can be any value, like can be value of any data type basically. So this is clear what is string. It is just a way in which you store multiple values in a single variable. Okay, and it can these values can be of any data type. There is no restriction that all the values should be of the same data type. You can like mix and match any data type. There can be one integer or multiple. Like you can basically, your values can be of any data type. That is what it means. So yeah, again, most of the things that we had used, right, for the string, like the operations, like we had seen addition operation, we had seen multiplication operation. So all of these things would be very common in lists as well, because both of them come under the sequence data type itself. So most of that would be repeated in this case too. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so let's first see uh, basically some of these things like accessing the element and all, which we have seen yesterday, but this will also be a good recap for you all. So again, these operations and all that we will be performing today will be applicable for all the sequence data types basically. So first of all, when you're creating a list, a list, right? Like similar to a string. So when I'm creating a string, it is fine if I create an empty string, right? This is valid. This is a string with length 0, right? So similarly, if I have a list, I can create a list with length 0. That would be fine. So this is totally fine by Python compiler. It won't give me any error for this. So I am not putting any values in the list. I am just declaring an empty list. Maybe later on I'll keep on adding values to it, but right now I don't have anything to add to the list. So I'll just declare an empty list. So yeah, here when I print this, it gives me an empty list. Okay, so we saw that we can put a list of numbers. Similarly, we can put a list of strings as well. Just a minute. So usually when you're creating a string, right, that the values that you want to put in the string should be like of one similar, basically it should have some meaning, right? So that's why you're putting it into one variable. So for example, if you're writing a code for some car company, okay, and that car company wants you to make a list of all the cars that are being sold in the company so that you can use it in the code. So in that case, you will create a list with all the cars that are available with the company. So you can put BMW, Honda, whatever cars you have, Suzuki, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say is, whenever you are writing a list, whenever you create a list, the items in the list can be of any data type, but you should form that list such that it has some meaning, right? The data items are not distinct, like they have some meaning, right? When you going to the market and you are creating a list for yourself of what elements to buy or what things that you want to buy from the market, so you have a specific purpose in your mind to create that list, right? You're creating a list because you want to know what all items will I shop from the market. So similarly, those items, so whatever you're putting in the list should have some value, some meaning basically. So yeah, this is a list of string here. So yeah, so similarly, right, if I want to access any element, so any questions, anyone?
Ma'am, can you explain it again? I not able to understand.
Okay. See, a list is basically values, multiple values put into a single variable. Okay. So here I have just one variable list, one variable named list, and it is storing multiple values. Okay. So these values that you're putting in the list can be of any data type. It can be of integer data type, string data type, float data type, or boolean, or any of the data types you can put inside a string. Okay, just that it should be connected, it should have some meaning. Okay, so in this case, if you see on line number 5, I have made a list of all the car models that a car company might have. Okay, so this is just an example. So example, if you are writing a code for some car company, so in that case I will make a list of all the cars models that the company has. Okay, so that I can write the rest of my code. So in that case, I'll make a list like this. So like in the previous case, right, how we had we were accessing each element of a string using index, right? So in this case, every value that you put into a list is an element of the list. Okay, so when I say 1, 2, 3, 5, okay, so now this list has 4 elements. If I say print len of list, it will give me 4. Again, we had used len function to find out the length of the string, right? Similarly, here we are using len function to find out the length of the list. So it gives me 4 as the answer. So here also, right, we had in that string concept, we had used index, right? Similarly, here also we are going to use the concept of index. So here, if I declare, if this list is declared with values 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, just declare it here. 1, 2, 3.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, what we have to do for finding characters?
Um,
Ma'am,
uh,
what we have to do for finding the characters of? and any string or
Okay,
any
okay.
element.
Okay, see, when yeah, so if we have this string is apple, right? So yesterday we saw, right, when we want to access any character of the string, we just use the square brackets and we put inside the index for at which you want the character from. So in this case, A is at index 0, P is at index 1, the second P is at index 2, L is at index 3, and E is at index 4, right? So if I want the letter L, okay, I want to know the character at position 3, at index 3, then I'll write print str of 3, and this will give me the answer L. So this is what you have to do to access characters from a list. Yeah, so here, similarly, right, when we have a list, we have certain elements in that list. Okay, and that those elements in the list have certain index. Okay, so if this is my list, this is the list that I've created with values 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, and 1. So my list will have an index. So my first element, okay, here, like in strings we had characters, and in a list we'll have elements, right? My first element, which is 1, element or value which is 1, will have an index 0. The second value will have an index 1, and so on. And you can also put in the negative indexes that we saw yesterday. Okay, so you can start -1 from the last element of the list and continue going towards the left. So yeah, usually we won't use negative indexes as we saw yesterday, as we were discussing yesterday. So here in this case, now if I want to find the element or at index 2, what would be the answer? What would be the answer to this?
3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah. So this is working exactly like the strings, right? Like what we saw for the strings, except that instead of characters, here we are looking at the whole value, the values present inside the list. And in strings, we did not have to put a comma after every character. In list, when you put multiple values, you have to use a comma between two values. Okay.
Ma'am,
And
we can change the values.
what? Sorry.
We can
Repeat.
change the value.
Yeah. So that's, yeah, what we were getting at. In list is a mutable object. Okay, so we saw string is an immutable. Similarly, not similarly actually. List is mutable. String is immutable because you cannot change the elements or the characters of string, but list is mutable because you can change the elements of a list. Okay, so I can say list of 2 is equal to 4. So instead of 3, now that 3 value will be removed and 4 will be inserted at that point. So you can see that 3 value got removed and 4 got added in place of 3. So I have changed that one element of the list without completely changing the list. Okay. So that's why it is
Yes,
called
yes.
mutable. Okay. So yeah, so similar to the strings case, here also we can access the elements using index, concept of index. Then if I want to slice the list, okay, in this case you can call it slice the list. So in strings, you used to find the substring of a string, right? A smaller part of a string. In this case, you will slice the list. Okay, you don't call it sub list or anything. You will call it slicing the list. So in this case, if I say list, again, this is the same. So in the square brackets, you will first have to put in your starting index, which here I say from 1 to, suppose I want the values 2, 3, and 1. Okay, this 2, 3, and 1. Okay, so what should I put as the ending index?
3.
No, you should put it as 4. That's what we discussed yesterday, right? Whatever is your ending index,
Yeah,
you should put plus 1 in while finding the substring or while slicing a list. So you will put it as 4. So even though this is 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Till here I want it. So when you are mentioning it inside the square brackets, the ending character, or sorry, the ending index should be plus 1, whichever character, whichever index you want. So here in this case, I want index number 1, 2, and 3. So it starts with 1, so I'm writing 1, but while putting the ending index, I'll say 3 plus 1, which is 4. So let's see.
yeah.
Yeah, so 2, 3, 1 got. Okay, so this is clear. So again, we can use negative indexing also. That will also work the same way. So okay, so this is this last character would be minus 1. This would be minus 2. This would be minus 3. So minus 3, minus 4, minus 5. Okay, which means I'm starting on minus 5. Right? I'm starting on minus 5, and I'll go till minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. This is minus 3, right? But I want plus 1. So I will say minus 2. Clear to everyone this negative indexing, how I have done?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Can you
See,
explain it again?
yeah, see. So did you understand the positive indexing? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
understood the positive indexing, right? So while getting or while slicing a list, you will use a starting index and you will use an ending index. Okay. So we saw starting index is always the index that you want to start from. So if I want a character, this number 2, 3, and 1, okay, 2, 3, and 1, I will start my starting index is 1, right? Because I want to start my sub list, or I want to slice the list from index 1 where the value 2 is to where the value 1 is, okay, which is index number 3, okay. But when I'm putting the ending index, I will put whatever is the index of the position that I want my data till. So in this case, I want the numbers 2, 3, and 1 which are present at index 1, 2, and 3. So my starting index is 1, but while putting the ending index, I'll put it as 3 plus 1, which is 4. Is this clear? Clear? Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Similarly, when we are using negative indexing, you will start, first of all, you have to put the indexes, right? You have to understand like which element is present at which negative index. So you see the last, whenever you are trying to use negative indexing, you will start from the last element of the list, and you will number the last element as of the list as a minus 1. The index of the last element of the list would be minus 1. Then you will keep on going ahead to the left side, like minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. So the same concept we have used here. So now that I want values 2, 3, and 1 which are present at position minus 5, minus 4, and minus 3, my starting index would be minus 5, because I want to start from 2, right? I want 2, 3, and 1. Okay. So similarly, what you did for positive, right, indexes, you have to do for negative indexes also. My first starting index is minus 1, but I want value still minus 3 index, right? 1 is at minus 3 index. Okay, but while specifying inside Python, I will write minus 5 to minus 2, which is minus 3 plus 1. Clear, or is it still not clear? Sorry, I could not hear you. Okay, it's still not clear. Okay, okay. So is the positive like is using positive index to slice a list clear? At least like you want to slice a list and you are using positive index for it. Do you understand how we put the starting index and how we put the ending index?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that same thing you are going to do for negative index also. Okay, so here you can see, so for positive index, we used 1 to 4, right? 1 to 4, right? That only we have to use for negative index. So that if I write 1 to 4, if I write in terms of negative index, what would that be?
-5 to -2.
Exactly, right? So that
Okay.
same thing. So if you are using positive index, you will say I want to slice the list from index 1 to index 4. And if you are using negative index, you will say I want to slice the list from index -5 to index -2.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. It's clear now.
Okay. Yeah. So same things. That's what we have done. We have just used negative indexes to do that. Now there is one more thing. So when you are printing something, right, or when you are trying to slice a list, so for example, I have this list. Okay, so whatever we have done till now, right? Whenever we are trying to slice a list, like from 1 to 5, from position or from index 1 to 4, it gives me all the values from 1 to 4, right? It gives me 2, 3, and 1. Okay, but if I don't want that, and if I want the alternate values, okay, before that, like if I want to start printing the in a list from the first element, that is from 1 till the fourth element, which is this fourth one, what should I put? What should I put the index as from the first element to the fourth element? Mm,
5.
okay, okay, from first element, from this one to fourth element, which is this fourth one, fourth element 1. So what should I put as my starting index?
Starting
Yeah,
index.
from
Uh,
this.
0.
Yeah, great.
Oh, it's
Right? 0. And what should be the ending index?
uh,
5, 5,
4.
5.
Oh, 4.
Um,
4.
no, it should be 4. Yeah, right. We are talking about the fourth element here, right? So check the index of the fourth element. The index of fourth element is 3, right? The index of fourth element is 3. So while mentioning the ending index, I will write 3 plus 1, 4. Got it, everyone?
Yeah,
This
ma'am.
is the fourth element, but its index is 3. So yeah, so this is one way of getting the first four elements from 0 to 4. Or the second way could be just put list and do not put any starting index. You can just put colon and 4. So when you're putting just colon and 4 and you're skipping the starting index, right? Python will start slicing from the beginning, which means from starting from the first element you will get till the fourth element. There is no need of putting 0 explicitly. Like even if you do not put this 0, Python will understand that you want to slice the list from the starting element of the list. Okay, so if I print this, it should give me from this first element to the fourth element, which is 1, 2, 3, and 1. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 1. Okay, so clear, everyone? Like if you don't want to like if you want your sub list, or if you want that slicing of list, right, the part of list that you're looking for from the starting of the list to some index in between. Okay, so you don't need to specify 0, you just put it as empty. Like instead of specifying 0, you can directly leave it empty. Python will understand it.
Okay, ma'am.
Similarly, now if I have to, if suppose from the second element to the last element, if I want to get the values, so what should I write?
1 colon
List square bracket 1 is to 4.
Yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Till the last one, till this one, last one.
5.
is the index, right? 5 is the index of that number, right? But while putting the this ending index, we'll have, yeah, so 6 would be the value. So this is what you can do, or you can skip the last index and you can directly leave it empty, which means you can do print list of, just mention the starting index 1 and just leave the second one empty. So if you leave anything empty, if you either leave the starting index empty or the ending index empty, Python will go to the extreme of the list at that point, which means if you put the starting index as empty, like in line number 13, Python will go to the extreme of that list on the left side, which means it will start from the first element itself. Okay. And if you're putting the last element empty, or that is the ending index empty, then Python will go till the end of the list. So this one colon and nothing, right? This line number 16 should print 23111, which it does. So is this clear?
Yeah,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now, what if I want
Yes,
to
ma'am.
print the whole list using index?
In negative in box.
What? Repeat again. This will print.
In negative index, we have to minus 1 at the ending point.
In negative index, okay, let's just go with positive index right now. So if I want to print the whole list, this line number 18 will work definitely. But what if I want to use indexes to print the whole list? So in this case, what should I write? What should be the starting and ending index?
1 ratio.
1 or 0? Like your starting index?
0.
Yeah. 0
Zero,
to
0
zero,
to 6.
6.
zero.
Yeah, 6. 0 to 6, right? Everyone clear with that?
Yeah.
Ma'am.
And if you do not want to do that, again, as we had done in the previous two steps, right? You just leave both of them empty. You just put a colon in between. And Python will understand that you want to print the whole list, because it is like the starting index is also not mentioned, so it will start from the first element, and the ending index is also not mentioned, so it will go till the end of the list, that is till the last element, and then you will have the whole list printed out. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So one more thing. Now this is printing the whole list, right? Which means this is printing all the elements of the list. Okay. So what if I do not want to print all the elements of the list? I just want to print the alternate elements of the list. That is, I want to print 1, I want to print 3, and I want to print 1 again. Like this. 1, like index 0, index 2, and index 4. Okay. 1, 3, and 1. Which means I'm
We
skipping.
can use comma
Comma where?
between the two numbers.
No, I mean,
2 or more.
while printing, see, this list has 6 values, but when I want to slice the list, or when I want to create a separate list, okay, I want only the first, third, and fifth value of it. I just want the alternate values of it. I do not want all the values of it. So in that case, what you can do is, there is one more this colon that you can use, and you can put 2 here, which means you are skipping. Like, see, if I put 1, if I put 1 here, this will be like you go throughout the list, you check the whole list, and you print that comes at every step. Like, don't skip anything in between, just print everything that is present in the list. Okay. So but when I put this is called a step size. Okay, which means, like, if you're climbing on the stairs, right, if you take a step of 1, you will go to every stair, right? Like, if you have 10 steps on the stairs while going upwards on some different floor, maybe, and if you're taking one step at a time, then you will have to walk on all the 10 steps present on the stairs, right? Similarly, when I'm iterating this list, when I'm going through this list, okay, when Python is going through this list, if I give it as a step size of 1, which means it will go on every step, it will go on every index and print, and like make that value as a part of your new list. Okay, this third element, right, this third number that I have written here is the step size. Okay, so when I put step size as 1, which means Python will go on go on and print every element of the list. Is this clear? Step size is clear? Not clear yet?
मैम ये why this will print every element of the list.
Okay, see, at least did you understand this is going to print every element of the list? Because we are not specifying the starting element, we are not specifying the ending element, sorry, starting index
Yeah.
and ending index. So Python will consider the starting index as the start of the list and the ending index as the end of the list, and hence it will print the whole list for you. Is this clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so now when we use this third number, right, so basically what is the syntax is list starting index, starting index, starting index, colon, ending index, colon, step size. Okay, so when I say list 0 to 6, which means my starting index is 0, ending index is 6, and my step size is 1. Okay, what is step size? What does step size mean? Sorry, this should be. Okay. Step size is basically, so consider you are climbing stairs. Okay, if there are 10 steps present in that stair, and if you take a step size of 1, which means you will keep your feet on every one of those 10 stairs, right? Right, if you have a stairs and if there are 10 steps present on that stair, and if you are taking a step size of 1, which means your feet will go on every one of those steps present on the stair. You are taking a step size of 1, which means you are going through all the steps present on that stair, right?
Yeah.
Right? So similarly, when you're giving a step size of 1 to the list, to Python, so what it will do is it will go on every single element from your starting index to your ending index, and uh, basically if you're creating a new or if you're printing it, so it will print all the elements from the starting of your list to the ending of your list. Okay, because the step size is 1, so it has to go through all the steps, and in this case steps are elements. So here in this case you have 6 steps. Okay, and if the step size is 1, then from my starting index to the ending index it will go on every single element. Clear what is step size?
Yeah, ma'am.
Right.
Yeah, ma'am.
Similarly, if I put 2 as the step size, then it will skip one element in between, which means if you have 10 stairs or present on a 10 steps present on a stair, and if you are taking step size of 2, which means you will keep your foot on first step and then you will keep your foot on the third step, right? You are skipping one step in between, right? Clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Similarly, if you give a step size of 2, Python will print the first element and Python will skip the second element and go to the third element. Then it will skip the fourth element, go to the fifth element. Okay, it will print alternate elements from the starting index. So let's just see this. Yeah, so here we have the first element, third element, and fifth element. Okay, it has skipped the second, fourth, and sixth element. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you want to print a list in reverse, right? If this is the this is what we say, this is how the list is created. But if I want to reverse this list, then in the similar way, I'll do print list of minus 1. So here my starting index, or basically I'll just, for now I'll just put starting and ending index 0, 6 and minus 1. Okay, so minus 1 will mean start from the back and take one step. So it will print all the elements present in the list, but it will start from back. It will start from minus. It will start from negatives. Okay, clear? Just a second. Is this? I think it should be opposite. Okay. You can directly put it as empty for now. Like just as we discussed, right? When you're putting empty, it means from starting to the ending index, all the elements of the list. Similarly, like this. Similarly, you will put one colon for starting index and ending index, and one colon for the step size. And when you give step size of minus 1, the list will get printed in the reverse order.
तो आप म्यूट पे हो? ओह,
Okay, I don't know. I think not sure. Okay, is it not clear? What is not clear to you, Yoga? Or is it clear now? Like I think that message was 18 minutes back. So.
Yes, ma'am. Now I'm clear.
Okay, cool, great. Okay, so now we'll see the list operations, which are
Ma'am, somebody muted you.
yeah. Yeah, so now we'll see the list operations, and we'll kind of take one practical example. So what we'll do is we'll kind of try to write a code for an ice cream parlor. Okay. So now ice cream parlors usually have several ice cream flavors, right? So what I'll do is I'll create a list for the different flavors that the ice cream parlors have, and name it ice cm underscore flav. Okay, so to begin with, I'll just give it three basic flavors: apple, mango, and banana, maybe. Okay. So now, like if I want to get the number of flavors, I'll just use len, right? Print len of ice cream flavor. Okay. So now if I want to ask the customer if what is the ice cream that the customer wants, I'll ask that customer what is the ice cream that customer wants. And that would be like my order, right? So I'll just say cust order is equal to input, which flavor do you want? Okay. Now if I want to say, if I want to tell the customer if a certain flavor exists in the ice cream parlor or not, what should I do? Any guesses? I want to check if this cust order has the flavor that the customer wants, right? The ice cream flavor that the customer wants. Okay, I want to see if that flavor that the customer has given me is present in my current listing or not. If is present in my current available flavors or not.
Is there or not?
Yeah, but like, what should I do, like, to check if that flavor is present in this list or not? The same way we did for strings, if you remember. The item is present in the menu, on the menu. Okay, we'll say str of cust order in ice cream flavor. Right, this is what we did while checking if a certain character is present inside a string or not, right. We did a character a in some string to check if a character is present in that string or not, right. Similarly, in this case, I want to see, I have taken a flavor from the customer, and I want to see if that flavor is present in my current list, available list of flavors or not. So I'll do cust order in ice cream flavor. Okay, that I can, yeah. So I hope this is clear to you all. I have converted it into a string so that I can print it to the customer. The value that you will get, like, from this cust order in ice cream flavor would either be a true or a false.
No, ma'am. I didn't understand this.
Okay. Okay. So now, see, did you understand that we have taken one flavor from the customer, right? We have taken one flavor from the customer. The customer has input some flavor. For example, if
Yeah.
the customer would have input chocolate as a flavor, okay. Now, suppose you are running an ice cream parlor, so you will want to check, right, in your list, in your menu, whether this chocolate flavor is available in my menu or not, right? So your menu right now here is this ice cream flavor list, right? This is the menu. This is the flavors of ice cream that you are providing to the customer, right. And now
Yeah.
if the customer wants chocolate flavor, you will first have to check, right, if that chocolate flavor is there in your is available or not. So in that case, to check if this customer order, cust order, which means the flavor that the customer has given me is present in my list or not, I'll just say cust order in ice cream flavor. So basically what I'm doing is in, and this would be the list name. So whatever element you want in the list name. So for example, if I have a list of numbers, if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and if I want to check if the number 1 is present in this list or not, I'll say 1 in L. Okay, and this should give me a value of true because 1 is present in the list.
Yeah.
Okay, got this? The
Yeah,
same thing
ma'am.
I'm doing, I'm just like checking if that flavor that the customer has given me is it present in my current list or not. Okay, so present, and it will give me a boolean answer, either positive, sorry, either true or false. That boolean I'll have to convert it into string first so that I can put it inside my output string. Check. Okay. So next, yeah. So now, see, as you can write this. One more thing I wanted to show you guys here. Okay. So if I have a list, okay, if I have a list of strings, okay, like if I have same thing, I can say here apple, mango, banana. Okay. Now we can say, okay, at index number 0, what is the element present here in this case?
Apple.
Apple.
Apple, right? Yeah. So yesterday we saw, right, that we can use index to get characters from a string, right? So in this case also that will be applicable. Okay, which means, like, if I say a is equal to list of 0, I will get apple as the value, right? Now, what if I want the character a from apple string, from this list? So now initially what we saw yesterday was how to get a character from a string, right? Now I'm telling you I want to get a character from a string which is present inside a list. Okay, I is the question clear?
Ma'am, can you repeat this?
Yesterday we saw, right, that when we want to get a character from a string, we will use the string name followed by a string name followed by the index at which the character we want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So now in this case, what I'm asking you is I have a list of string here. I have three strings in my list: apple, mango, banana. Now I want a character from the string apple. I want the first character from the string apple which is present inside a list. So how will I get it? Okay. So the one simple way we can think of this is I'll just say a is equal to list of 0. So when I say list of 0, my a variable will hold the string apple, right? And now if I want to print the first character of the string apple, I'll just say a of 0. And then I'll print it. And I got the character a. Is this clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. But instead of doing this, what I can do is I can just consider this as a multi-dimensional sequence. Okay, what is multi-dimensional? When there is one thing inside the other, which means if I have a list, okay, if I want to create a multi-dimensional list, that would be a list inside a list. Okay, that would be called a multi-dimensional list, a list inside a list. Okay, but in this case we just have strings inside the list. Okay, and I want to get the characters of those strings. Okay, so what I'll do is my first character, my first index would be the index of that element of which I want character from, and my second index would be whatever character I want. So here I want a, right? I wanted to get a character from the apple string which is present at index 0 in this list. So I said list of 0. Okay, so if you read from the left hand side, list of 0 will get me the string apple, and another index 0 will get me the value a.
Okay.
Got this, everyone? A. So no need of putting that string into a separate variable and then getting the character. You can directly say list of 0, list even if I want the character E in this case. So E is at index 4, right, inside the string, right? So here I can just say
Yeah.
4. So list of 0, you always read from the left hand side. List of 0 will give me the element that is present in the list at index 0, which would be apple. Okay, and I want the the character at index 4 in this string. Cool. Clear to everyone?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So this is fine. Now next what we will do is, now we want to get some flavors from the user and put it into our available list of flavors. So I'm asking the user, you give me the list of flavors that you want me to put into my menu. Okay. So what we can do in this case is, I'll just say new flavors. New flavors is equal to provide list of flavors to be added in the menu. Okay, so now when you are trying to accept a list from the user, or right now let's just consider one flavor. Okay, we'll say you provide only one flavor which you want me to put inside my menu. So provide one flavor to be added on the menu. So you're taking one flavor from the user and you're going to add it inside your menu. Okay, to add anything inside this ice cream flab list, you will just say ice cream underscore flab dot append whatever is the new flavor that you get. Okay, dot append will add that value inside the list. Whatever value you are putting inside this, right, inside a new flab, that will be passed in as inside the list. So let's try to print this out once.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so what if the customer wants chocolate flavor, but that is obviously not present inside the list? So it is saying flavor present false. Okay, now provide one flavor to be added in the menu. So I'll again say, okay, chocolate flavor only I want it to be put inside the menu. And now this is printing me the list. So now you can see chocolate got appended into the list, which is chocolate got added into the list. Clear till here? Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you're taking input from the user, right, that input will always be as a string. Okay. This is very clear. If even if you want to take a list of element values from the user, it will not be in the form of list. It will be in the form of string only. Okay. So okay. So now if I want, now there are certain flavors, like, right, which are a combination of two things. Okay, like there is chocolate coffee flavor maybe, which has both chocolate and coffee inside one ice cream only. So I have to put that chocolate coffee flavor into my list, right? So here in this list I'm just specifying the flavors that I have, right? So my chocolate coffee is also another flavor. Okay, so in that case what I'll do is I'll just say ice cream flavor is dot append, or yeah, dot append maybe chocolate comma coffee. So now if you notice, the last time that we used append, we were just adding one value. Okay, we were just putting chocolate. So when I just put one value, it got appended as a string itself in the list. But in this case, I am putting a list itself, right, inside the append function. This is another list of length 2, right? Chocolate and coffee, there are two elements, so this list is of length 2. So what I'm doing is I'm appending a list inside a list. Okay, so that is what you can do as well. You can so this would be called a multi-dimensional list, because you have a list inside a list. So now if I check ice cream flavor, yeah, so here you can see apple, mango, banana, almond. So when I added almond into the menu, that was one single string that got appended into the list. Okay, but when I put chocolate coffee, okay, this is a separate list. Okay, when I put it inside the append function, that was a list. I put a list inside the append function. So now my list has another small list present inside of it. Clear? Is this clear? It's a multi-dimensional list, because you have one list inside another list, right? Okay. So
Yeah,
now,
ma'am.
okay, maybe we'll just, yeah. So, okay, I'll just write whatever elements are present, so as to make it clear. So first is apple, second is mango, third is banana, fourth is almond, and fifth is this list, small list, which contains chocolate and coffee. Okay. Now, if I want to get the value coffee, what should I write? If I want to obtain this string coffee from the list, what index should I write? What index should I specify? No,
To
no, index. Like I
like
want to get this coffee. coffee value from the list. Again, this is my complete list. Okay, this is my complete list and I want to get coffee from this list. So we saw here, right, this 0 4 concept, same will be used here.
Hmm.
Okay, so first, yeah,
So we can we can get coffee. This is
your
what I.
voice is breaking. We are not able to hear you properly.
Ma'am, I want to say that five we can put no, then we can get coffee.
No, you can't put five because if you check if you check the elements of the list, right? If you check the elements of this
Hmm.
ice cream flavor list, the first element is apple, second element is coffee, third element is banana, fourth element is almond. But the fifth element is a list itself. The fifth element is not a string. A fifth element is a list. We said, right, when you're creating a list, the elements of the list can be of any data types, right? So similarly in this case, you have the first four elements as strings and the fifth element is a list, right? So here, if I want to get coffee, I will have to first go till this list, chocolate coffee list, and then get the coffee out of this. So which means I'll have to first go till the fourth, this index 4, which is this list coffee chocolate coffee. And in this, I will say 1. Okay, again, I have my main list ice cream flavor.
Can you scroll up your
Okay.
screen?
Okay, so again, I have this ice cream flavor list which has elements apple. The first element is apple at index 0, mango at index 1, banana at index 2, almond at index 3, and the element that is present at index 4 is a list. Okay, this list which has its own values that we will see later. But right now, we have this list contains 4 strings and 1 list. Okay, is this clear? So if I want to get this inner list, I'll just say ice cream flavor 4. Is this clear? If I just want to get this inner list, chocolate comma coffee. Yeah, this is clear. Now if I want
Yeah.
to get the coffee flavor from this list, I'll say L of 1, right? Right, this L is chocolate coffee. L contains the list that is present or the value that is present at index 4, which is a list which has its own values. Okay, so this list will get stored into L. Now if I want coffee, I'll say L of 1, right? So if I want to directly access it, yeah, that is cool,
You have
that is fine. um So if I directly want to get the value coffee from the list, I'll say 4. Okay, read it from the left hand side. So ice cream flavor list, I want to get the element at position or at index 4 from this ice cream flavor list. And then I want to get, now whatever element you have, whatever is the element, from that I want to get the element that is present at position or at index 1.
Ma'am, you have to
Is
write
this
print before L equals to
yeah,
ICALL.
that is fine. I'm just trying to show you guys what how does this multi-dimensional list indexing works.
Okay.
So it is, yeah, is this clear little bit?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Okay, now what if so this is clear, right, to everyone how to get coffee? Questions on this? Okay, if this is understood, like, can you guys answer a question? Like, how do I get this letter O in the coffee string? Okay. Okay, that is fine. But is this understood? Is it understood till here what we did? Why we
Yes,
use this
ma'am.
second index? Okay,
Yes, yes.
fine. Okay, now if I want to add some more flavors, right? If I want to just I can so we saw, right, dot append, and you can add one flavor to it. Similarly, if I want to add three flavors to it, like separate flavors, not as a multi-dimensional list, but like three separate flavors. So maybe I'll just go and delete all of this to reduce confusion. Okay. So now let's consider that we have this list itself, apple, mango, and banana. Now, if I want to add some more flavors to it, I can directly use plus is equal to also. Plus is equal to some, I don't know, lychee flavor maybe. Lychee and raspberry flavor. So this is how you can also use append in this case. This is one of the ways you can add elements to a list, or you can directly use ice cream dot flav dot append that we saw, right? But if you want to put the elements separately, then you will have to use append separately, like append lychee, and then again you will have to call ice cream. Sorry, ice cream flag dot append raspberry. Okay, is this clear? Like if I want to add two more flavors to it, I'll just say append lychee and append raspberry, or I can directly say plus is equal to lychee raspberry. This is also the same, this will also perform the same function. So if I print ice cream.
Ma'am, plus equals to is easier than appended function.
Ma'am, we can delete the item
Yeah, I'll tell you
like
about that.
flavor.
Yeah. You can delete the item. I'll tell you about that. So yeah, if you see this, then lychee and raspberry have got added separately as elements. Okay, this is when you want to add separate elements. Okay, now let's go back to deleting, I guess. Yeah. Now, if I want to delete something, I'll just say, so if I know, okay, if I know I don't want lychee flavor in my list anymore, I'll just say ice cream flavor dot remove lychee. So what this will do is it will remove the occurrences of lychee from your list. Okay, so lychee got removed. So I am just going to check this once. Like, what if you have multiple like duplicate elements? Okay. Okay. So basically, remove the first occurrence of your whatever you will put into this. So here you saw, right? I had added lychee twice. So my list has two lychees now, right? Apple, mango, banana, lychee, raspberry, lychee. Okay. So when I said dot remove lychee, it removed the first occurrence of lychee, which was before raspberry. So the one that is present after raspberry is still there. Okay, this is how you
Okay.
remove elements from the list. Um, yeah, I think that's it when it comes to this list operations. Is that's all is required, basic things that are required to know about list operations. Okay, yeah. So there's some more functions that we can see. Okay. So if I have a list of numbers, right? If I have a list of numbers, one, the same one we can take 1 2 3 1 1 1. Okay, so I can sort this list. I can so basically what we will do here is in this we can find the minimum of the list, we can find the maximum of that list, we can find the sum of that list, we can kind of find how many times a certain number is present in that list or a certain element is present in that list. We can sort the list and like we can sort it both in ascending and descending order. So we'll see how. So first one, if you want to get the minimum of that list, you just have to say min of list. Min of list. Okay. Min is a function here again, and you're passing your list into the min function, and it will return you whichever is the minimum value of that list. So in this case, 1 would value, right? So the answer in present inside min list would be 1. Similarly, if you have max list, if you want to find out the maximum element of the list, you just say max list. Right? If you want to find the sum of all the elements in that list, you just say sum of list. This is very simple, right? If you want to find min, then min, max, or sum of list. Okay. Now, if you want to count the occurrence of a certain element in the list, okay, which I mean by that is how many times does an element is present in that list, how many times does that element come into that list. Okay, so if I here say I want to count the occurrences of the number 1 in that list, so what would the answer be?
3.
Sure, you have to count how many times 1 is there in this list.
4.
Yeah, 4. So I'll just say C1 list, which means I'm just counting the number of ones present in this list, how many 1 are present in the list. So I'll say list, this is a bit different syntax, list dot count 1. Okay, so list is the list in which you want to get the count from, dot count, and inside this so basically this is called as parenthesis. Okay, this also I'll keep on saying parenthesis. This open and close rounded brackets, right, is called as parenthesis in computer science. Parenthesis, open and close round brackets. Okay, so list would be the name of the list from which you want to find the count. Count is the function name, and inside the parenthesis you will put the element that you want to get a count for, that you want to count how many instances are present in the list. Okay, then we will see how to sort a list. So now this is an in place function. Okay, so what does in place function mean is, let's write it. In place function mean is that it will, whatever you're performing, right, that is being performed on this, on the list itself. Like in this case you are getting an answer, right? This minimum, whatever value you're getting, min is a function, you're passing your list and you're getting a value out of that list, but your list is not getting modified in any way. Like you just have a list, you're passing that list to the min function, and min function is returning the minimum value from that list. But in this whole operation, your main list, right, this list is not getting changed in any way. No one's changing that list. That list is still going to be the same after you perform all the 4 of these operations. Like we can check that list. I'll just print it before the 4 operations and after the 4 operations, and it will be the same. Yeah, it's the same. But what does sort do is, sort will change the main list itself. Okay, so when you are using this sort function on the list, your list will get changed and the list will get sorted. Okay, that means list dot sort is how you sort the list. When I do list dot, does anyone have any question?
ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ నేను డ్రెస్ చేంజ్ చేసుకోవాలి అందుకే పోయిరా.
Okay, if you don't have any question, please mute the mic. Okay, so now if I sort it, if I do list dot sort and then I print the list will change. So basically sorting, in this case, it will sort it in an ascending order because you're not specifying any order here. So by default, it will sort the list in an ascending order only. So here, let's see. So see, this is sorted in that ascending order and my actual list has changed. Like whatever was my main list, right? This list, this got changed. Basically that sort has happened on that list itself and my final, that original list got changed and got converted into this. So the elements have been replaced, right? Initially it was 1 2 3 1 1 1. Now it is 1 1 1 1 2 3. Clear what just happened? Okay, when you sort it, the elements of your list, actual original list, will get changed. It will get sorted, so the order of the elements will get changed. Similarly, if you want to sort it in a descending order, you can write list dot sort reverse is equal to true. Reverse is equal to true. Reverse is equal to true will sort it in a descending order. Okay, so here you can see the elements have been like the order has been changed and now the elements are placed in descending order inside the list. So all these sequential data types, right, like string, list and tuples that we'll see right now. So all these three data types, why are they called sequential? Because their position, position of their elements matter, right? You're using the position of that element, which is basically the index, to get the elements present at that index, right? So that position matters in all of these three data types. So is this clear? Are these functions clear?
Can you explain the list sort dot sort reverse is equal to true?
Okay, so
Line.
did you understand list dot sort, this one?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, so what this does, what will this do?
It will in place our list ascending order.
Okay, it will sort the list in ascending order, right? The elements will you will get from the list will be in ascending order, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, and reverse, when you put reverse is equal to true, this sorting will happen in a descending order. That means the elements will be reordered in a descending order. So here you can see, right, the third one is the ascending order one and the fourth one is descending order. This 3 2 1 1 1 1 is after you use list dot sort reverse is equal to true. So the elements of the list have been reordered in descending order.
Okay.
Okay.
You have reversed the ascending order into the descending order.
Yeah, basically. So basically, when you're sorting, yeah, if you do not put anything into the parenthesis, right? If you do not put any value inside it, then it will by default sort it in an ascending order. If you put reverse is equal to true, okay, which means it is now sorting in reverse order, that is descending order, right? Okay, I think that is all about list. That is important things about list. Next we'll just briefly see what is tuples. So basically tuples are exactly like lists. Okay, so tuples are mostly like lists only. They are also a collection of different values. When you have different values and you want to put all those values into the same variable, in that case you will use tuple. Okay, the only or I'll say the main difference when you're creating a list and a tuple is how you like what you put them in. Like if you're creating a list, right, you will put them into square brackets, right? You will put them into square brackets and you will put whatever elements you want to put in the list. When you're creating a tuple, you will put those into parentheses. Okay, we saw this is called parenthesis, right? Open and close round brackets. So whenever you put your elements inside these parentheses, it will be a tuple. So if I say print type of first one, list, and then I'll say print type of.
Ma'am, what is the tuple?
Yeah, so that's what we saw. I said, right, tuple is exactly the same as a list. Okay, we'll see what all differences are present between tuple and list. But right now, tuple is also like a collection of values, right? Like in list, we have multiple values into a single variable. Similarly, in a tuple, there will be multiple values in one variable, and the data type of these values can be anything. Okay, only the difference while declaring it is that for creating a list you use square brackets, and for creating a tuple you will use round brackets. Okay, so you can see the first one class is list, second one class is tuple. Okay, so whatever we have seen for list, right, like we have okay, what all we have seen for list operator, we have seen indexing, accessing the elements using square brackets, right? Then we have seen list slicing, that is by giving the start element, start index and end index. Then we have seen certain operations like sort and min, max, and yeah, append and remove. So all these things will be applicable for tuples as well. Okay, so whenever you think of tuples, it is exactly the same as list. Okay, we'll see what the differences are, but right now, okay, the most important difference is basically in how you create a tuple. While creating tuple, you will use a round parenthesis, like this round brackets instead of square brackets. That is the first difference. The second difference is a tuple is immutable. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me what is immutable? We have talked about it twice. We have said,
We cannot change the values.
yeah, you cannot change the value of the elements, right? So, it was a list. What was a list? Was it immutable or mutable?
Ma'am, mutable.
Immutable.
No, a list. List. We just
Mutable.
yeah, we
Mutable.
changed, yeah, right, we changed values of the list, right? We changed the value of elements in the list. So list is mutable, string is immutable, because when we tried to change the value of a character, when we tried to change a character of a string, it gave an error, right? That is because once a string is created, you cannot change the any of the characters of the string. Okay, list is mutable and tuple is immutable, which means you cannot change the value of the tuples once the tuple has been created. Once this 1, 2, 3 has been created, you cannot change a specific element of this TUP. You can append to it, you can add to this tuple, you can remove from this tuple, but you cannot change the value of the elements.
ఇంత పెద్ద ఉంటుంది మమ్మీ అది ప్లాస్టిక్ది అది మన ఉంటుంది.
Yeah, so this is one of the differences between list and tuple. Now that's why sometimes you will use list, sometimes you will use tuple. Okay, when you will use tuple, when you don't want your this elements to get changed, when you don't want your data to be changed, in that case you can use tuple. Okay, these are the two main differences between list and tuple. First is how you declare it. Using in list we use a square bracket, and in tuple we use round brackets. And
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,
any question?
20, 22, 23.
Any question, anyone? If not, please mute yourself. Yeah, so and in tuple you use the round brackets, and the second difference is list is mutable and tuple is immutable. That means once a tuple is created, you cannot change individual elements of a tuple. Okay, let's go back and see. Yeah, identical to lists but created using open and close brackets, that is round brackets, parentheses. Tuples are immutable. Indexing and slicing will work similar to strings and lists. Since tuple is also a sequence data type, all the things that we have seen for strings and lists, right, like accessing the elements using index and slicing using starting index and ending index, appending and removing, all of that will work in case of tuples as well. So when should you use a tuple instead of a list? When you don't want the data to be modified. That means whatever tuple you have created, if you do not want anyone to change that data, then in that case you will use tuple because they are immutable. No one can change the values once a tuple is created. Okay, and one more like advantage of using a tuple is like mostly in our case we don't use it. I mean, this is not the reason, but if you're working on a large amount of data, like if your list has like 10,000 or 20,000 data items, okay, your list has 20,000 values, for example. Okay, then in that case, if you create a tuple and put those 20,000 values in the tuple, then tuple will work faster for you. Okay, so basically tuples work faster than lists, but if the number of elements is less in your tuple, then the difference won't be that significant. You won't understand that difference so much. But if the number of elements in the tuples is too much, like around 10,000 or 20,000, in that case tuples work faster than lists. Okay, so I think that is it with the sequence data type. Any questions still here?
No, ma'am.
Okay, everything is clear till here. Then we'll just cover this small topic, operator precedence, and maybe in the next session, then we'll start with conditional statements. Okay,
Yeah, ma'am.
so yeah, cool. Okay, so last time we saw, right, like when we saw operators, usually we were just using one operator while evaluating a statement, right? So if I had to do add, I was just doing 10 plus 15. Okay, if I had to do multiply, I was just doing b is equal to 10 into 15. So what if I have multiple operators in one statement? Which means what if I have 10 plus 15 into 20? Okay, or let's just make it simple, 1 plus 2 into 5. So what will be the answer for this? Can anyone tell me?
11, ma'am.
Yeah, 11.
11.
And any other answer? Like anyone else wants to say any different answer?
11, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Because
How did you get
there is
11
no
as the answer?
answer.
Using BODMAS rule, ma'am.
Exactly, right?
BODMAS rule.
Right,
Yes, ma'am.
right, exactly. So that's what precedence in associate. So basically, that is what precedence means in case of Python as well. That is when you have multiple operators in a single statement, how will that statement get evaluated? Like if you have plus and into in the same statement, which operator will be performed first? Okay, that is evaluated, that is done using, that is checked using the rules of precedence in Python. Okay, so let's just go and what's wrong with this? So there's no need of like keeping this in mind. Like it's you can access it anywhere from internet and check it. This is just for reference that you can use whenever you are working with operators and you are not sure about the precedence. So here you can see, right, there are several operators given here, one below the other. So this is the order of precedence, which means parenthesis, as you can see at the top, right, first one. Is it visible for everyone?
No, ma'am. Not clearly.
Yes, ma'am.
Not clear.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure if I can. Yeah, yeah. Now is it clear? Cannot
Yeah.
just move it, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, it might be a little blur, but I'll just like tell you guys. So see, the first one is parenthesis, right? Which is the open and close round bracket. Okay, so that open and close round bracket will have the maximum precedence, which means if you put anything inside this open and close brackets, right? Open and close round brackets, then that will be evaluated first. Okay, irrespective of whatever operand is present inside the brackets, which means let's just go back. Okay, so here according to Bodmer's rule, this multiplication should have precedence, right? So, but if I put a parenthesis over here, what should be the answer?
15.
Right, right. I think all of this is very mathematical only. You might have learned it in mathematics itself. Whenever you put a parenthesis, which is a open and close round bracket, in surrounding any operator, then that operator will have precedence, which means that operator will be performed first. That will get evaluated, that statement will get evaluated first, and then the others will be evaluated according to Bodmer's. So same thing, parenthesis has the maximum precedence, then we have exponent, then we have multiplication, division and modulus, subtraction and addition. I think this all is what we know already. I think bitwise operators you leave it for now. So what you need to see here is like this relational operators and all, which means if you have a addition, if you have a plus and a less than in the same statement, in that case your plus will get evaluated first and less than will get evaluated later on. Okay, so which means if I have something like 3 plus 5 less than 10, what will be the answer for this?
Uh,
Okay, if you have relational operator, then your answer will be in true or false, right? If you have a relational operator, then your answer will be in true or false, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
true.
So
True, true.
yeah, right. So here in this case, 3 plus 5 will get evaluated first, and this will become 8. This will become 8 is less than 10. Less than 10, and the answer will be true in this case. So yeah, like whenever you're using these operators, you can go through these tables. You will get them easily anywhere on the internet. And similar,
And when bitwise is not necessary for in Python.
bitwise is not usually used. Like bitwise, like you will have to go into a little bit of more hardware details to understand what bitwise means and what bit is, right? So mostly we don't use it while writing basic applications, like writing software applications and all. So yeah, it will be a little bit difficult to understand without any previous knowledge of computer science. So that's why I've left it, because it's not really important, that important while coding anyway. So yeah, so next we will see here you can see not operator, and I think or and are in the next slide. Yeah. So not has a higher precedence than and or, right? So if I have right, 3 is less than 5 and 4 is greater than 5. What will be the answer for this expression? Again, the relational operators get evaluated first and then and operator will get evaluated.
False, ma'am.
Okay, let me check. 3 is less than 5 would be true and 4 is greater than 5 would be false. Yeah. So the answer should be false, right? So here in this case, according to the table also, the relational operators have a higher precedence than and operator, right? So here both these expressions will get evaluated first and then and operator will get evaluated. Then the whole this will get evaluated. Okay. So this is cool, right? Now what if I have a minute. Okay. Yeah, what if I have a division and a modulus in the same expression. Which means what if I have 10 divided by 3 modulus 2. So in this case, what will be evaluated first? Will division be evaluated or will modulus be evaluated? You have division and modulus, and you have to find out which one will get evaluated first. So here you can see both division and modulus are present on the same line, right? They both have the same precedence level. So how will we find out how will it get evaluated? Okay, so that is where associativity comes into picture. It's called associativity. Okay, what associativity means is that whenever you have more than one operators present in an expression which are present on the same level of precedence, which have the same precedence level, okay, then there will be a certain way in which they will get evaluated, either left to right or right to left. Okay, so here you can see associativity, you can see here, right? And what this says for multiplication, division, modulus, it says left to right. Okay, what this means is whenever you have multiple operators, like in this case division and modulus, in the same expression, and both these operators are of the same precedence, then you have to start from the left to the right, which means the operation, the operand at the left, the operator on the left will get evaluated first, and then the operator on the right will get evaluated. Is this clear? Again, I'm repeating. So what is
Yeah,
associate?
ma'am.
Okay, did you understand? Okay, anyway, I'm repeating it once
Yes,
more.
ma'am.
Yeah, I'm repeating it once more anyway. Basically, where associativity comes into picture is when you have multiple operators in the same expression, and all these operators are of the same precedence. Okay, so like in our expression, in this expression 10 divided by 3 modulus 2, we have division sign and we have modulus, which are on the same level of precedence. All the three multiplication, division and modulus has the same level of precedence, right? So how in this case will Python understand which operator to perform first, which operator to evaluate first? That is looked into by associativity. Okay, so here in this case it says left to right associativity, which means in the expression, in your expression, whichever operator is present on the left hand side, that will get evaluated first, and then the one on the right hand side will get evaluated. So in this case 10 divided by 3 will get evaluated first, and then whatever is the answer, modulus 2 will be evaluated later on. If I would have changed the order of the like operators, so in this case what should have been the order of evaluation? How will it be evaluated?
Left to right.
Left to right, right? So in this case also first 10 mod 3 will be evaluated, and then whatever is the answer, that will be divided by 2. Clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So I think most of these operators have left to right this associativity only. Only exponent has right to left associativity. Okay, what does that mean is if I have is equal to 2 exponent 2 exponent 3. So now I have two operators, okay, in the same expression, which are on the same level of precedence, right? Right? Both of these operators are on the same level of precedence. Okay, in this case, what will get evaluated first? Will it be 2 raised to 2 or 2 raised to 3?
2 raised to 3.
Yeah, right. Because it's a right to left associativity. The right operation first will get evaluated, which is 2 raised to 3. And whatever is the result of 2 raised to 3 will be, so in this case 2 raised to 3 is 8, right? So first 2 raised to 3 will get evaluated to 8, and then 2 raised to 8 will get evaluated. Okay, this will work in case you have multiple, even in case of multiple operators, right? Like in this case, first, if in this case also now I have three operators, all the three are of the same precedence. So the associativity will start from right to left. That is, first 3 raised to 4 will get evaluated. Whatever is the answer, that will be raised to 2 will be the next evaluation, and then that will be raised to 2. Is this clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ma'am.
I think, yeah, so that's it. These I hope you guys have received the PDFs and all. If no, then maybe. Also, I have an assignment I did not tell you about. Just a second. We'll just quickly go through the assignment and then we'll get done with the session. It's already post 6. Okay. Yeah, so basically here, right, the first one is the first question is you have to get the name of the user, and you have to check if the name contains any vowels. That is, if the name contains A, E, I, O, or U. Okay. So you can use in operator here. You can check if A is in the string, A is present in the string, E is present in the string, I is present in the string, O is present in the string, U is present in the string or not. And whatever answer you are getting for each of these expressions, right, you will just use an AND operator in between. Okay, is this clear?
Ma'am, can you repeat?
Okay, so you have to first get the name of the user, and you will have to check if the name contains A, E, I, O, and U. Okay, so now if you have your okay, if my name is some, yeah. Okay, now first I'll check C1 is equal to A in name. Cool. This is for A in name. Similarly, you will have for AE, then you will have for I, then you will have for O, and then you will have for U. Okay, you will have 5 operators, right? Now I want the final answer. So now how to get a final answer? I need at least one of this to be true, right? These values C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5 will be in Boolean, right? A in name will give me true because Priya has a A. C, this would be E in Priya, E in name, right? Which would be false, right? But if for each any of these vowels to be present in my name, I need at least one of these to be true, right? So then for my final answer, I'll do C1 or C2 or C3 or C4 or C5. Okay, because I want any one of these to be true. Okay, so yeah, that is the first one. Then the second one is exactly like the one we did in the class. So in the class we did for an ice cream company, right? So you can just create a list for a chocolate company and store whatever chocolates you want inside that list. And so first you will have to provide the user with the number of chocolate options you already have, and then you have to get the chocolate name from the user and check if it is available in your current list. And third one, get a list of chocolate names that the user wants and add them to the list. So what you can do is you can either take it from the user one by one, like you can take one name from the user and add it to the list, then you can take the second name from the user and add it to the list, or else just like take one name only. Don't take a list of chocolate, just take one chocolate. Get one chocolate name from the user and add it to the list. Okay, this is very simple. All of this is already done in the class. And the third one is, so I think we saw the accessing and slicing operations on the list and the string, right? We did not see it on tuples because it was exactly the same. So I did not repeat it. Okay, so that you will perform as a homework. You will perform all the accessing and the slicing operations that we saw for list in tuples, using tuples. Homework is clear for everyone?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I think, yeah, I think we are done with the session. I won't go any further. It's already over time. So Shaina, I think we are done with the session for today. If anyone has any questions, you can ask either right now or yeah, you can go back, check the video, and then later on next week we can go through the questions.
Okay, so any questions for now, students?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Okay, great. Then we can close the session, right?
Yeah, yeah, Shaina.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Shaina. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Priya. Bye, Madhyas. Bye, Neelam.